Gunners, welcome to Gunner Pavilion. And I've got a question, guys. Are we prepared for Stamford Bridge? Um, After an incredible performance against Bayern Munich, this weekend, everything feels on the line, and the build-up is already starting. We're beginning to turn our eyes, towards Stamford Bridge, and that's the mentality that we've got to have. We turn the page very quickly and immediately look at what's in front of us. And what's in front of us is Stamford Bridge. Got some questions. Will Martin Ødegaard return to make the difference? He came on the game today, got a couple of minutes. And how do you stop a Chelsea team? They're full of confidence after playing Barcelona and also winning with an incredible scoreline as well. And the rested players in Europe with one eye, towards the game against Arsenal. So um, Arsenal for the Bayern team, Rice said this was probably the hardest team that we've ever played. Is this going to take a toll on Arsenal? So strap in, guys. Let's go into this pavilion preview and we're going to break down, what I think are the tactics that Arsenal might need to win this game. Who are going to be the key players in this game? And of course, the lineups and the score. Let's get into it. So, um, let's just look at what Arsenal has done, recently. We're coming into this game with a granite identity. And I like that word because now we know who we are. We are not there is no debate about who Arsenal is. This is a team that is defensively solid, a team that can punish you in so many ways. We can score through set pieces, we can trust through open plays. And I'm sure all the questions about a set piece FC is beginning to get crushed. We don't concede chances, we control matches, and we're scoring from every part, of the pitch, from defenders, from midfielders, from the attackers. People are popping in the right zone. And injury wise, yes, it's been a roller coaster. No Gabriel, Jesus still recovering, Havertz still recovering. But we've got Noni Madueke coming back, Martinelli coming back, both players coming back today against Bayern Munich and scoring goals. So there's resilience in this team. Um, it can be scary, guys. It can be scary for the other teams that are looking at Arsenal and wondering, what exactly can you do against this team? What can you do against this Arsenal team? Because right now we look incredibly imperious. Now, Chelsea, on the other hand, Chelsea are not with regard to respect. We've got to respect what Chelsea have done. They're second in the table for a reason. And they had an incredible night in the Champions League as well, beating Barcelona 3 goals to nil. But Chelsea are weird, right? Because on paper, they've got lots of players, lots of injuries, but actually on the pitch, they're finding their rhythm, right? They beat Barcelona 3-0, they beat Burnley 2-0, and they're starting to look like a team that knows exactly what Maresca wants. And Maresca, especially in this one-off games, has shown that he's capable of taking the game to any team. Just look at what Chelsea did in the Club World Cup. So this is not going to be the same Chelsea team that we've played in the past, and we've got an incredible record against where they haven't won in about 10 attempts against us. I remember back in the day with Drogba, it was always we play against Chelsea, we knew that Drogba was Thanos. He was inevitable, always scoring against us, bully some of our defenders. Senderos probably had sleepless nights, you know, after having a game against Chelsea. But things have changed. For me, the danger guys for Chelsea, you got Garnacho, Estêvão. We've seen how incredibly talented he is. So he's going to be one to keep an eye on. Caicedo, probably the best six right now in the Premier League. The engine is incredible. And then Reece James has been doing something slightly different. I'm wondering whether that is to prepare Chelsea for the Arsenal game on Sunday, because Reece has been playing as an inverted hybrid role. Did that against Barcelona to good effect. They don't have any Cole Palmer. Don't think he's going to make it for this game as well. But they're young, they're fearless, And at Stamford Bridge, they're going to feel dangerous. They're going to feel very confident, playing against Arsenal, especially after their midfield exploit. When I look at this game tactically, guys, here's what I'm seeing. I think there are a couple of areas where this game is going to be won or lost. And the first is going to be the midfield. The midfield is going to be very big in this game. That triangle between Eze, Zubimendi, and Rice is going to be going up against a triangle of potentially Caicedo, Enzo, and maybe Reece James. And here's the big thing. Arsenal's midfield isn't really about possession. It's about denying entry. So we deny people entry into that zone 14 on the field, and we do that quite well. This is why teams are not getting shots on target against us, because it's very difficult to get shot on target, especially from the corners or the angles. So we deny players getting into that zone 14. And if you look at the stats up to 2025, 2026 stats, they're telling you that, Rice, middle third recoveries, he gets 2.9 per 90 minutes on average. Zubimendi gets about 2.2 interceptions per 90. Eze gets about 7.1 pressures per 90 in the half spaces. Of course, Eze is part of that pressing unit for Arsenal, and you see him grow and grow and grow. This is something that he probably didn't have to do in Crystal Palace, but in Arsenal, when you play that number 10, you've got to do that pressing, and he's been doing that well. So those three together, for me, form the best midfield defensive block in the league. Chelsea are going to want transitions in this game, and they're going to be looking to the pace of Estêvão if he plays, Garnacho if he plays. But Arsenal know how to kill transitions. This is exactly what we do, especially with our rest defense, making sure that teams don't transition and take advantage against us. The other thing, right? Chelsea's biggest threats, Garnacho and Estêvão, talking about them. But Arsenal don't defend wingers the normal way. It's quite interesting when you look at what we do with wingers. We try and trap the transitions inside instead of outside, because this is where our rest defense is positioned, to squeeze the life, and then players get back into position so that they can actually defend. So what that means is that when Timber steps into midfield, Rice covers that diagonal, right? The space where Timber has left, and the winger drops into the half space. This is why Arsenal are number one in the Premier League for wide zone XG prevention. And Chelsea would look dangerous in wide areas. So this is something that Arsenal is going to be looking out for. How many times do we let our wide players or Chelsea's wide players get the run on our fullback? This is going to be key. Going to be looking out for that too as well. And of course, people have talked about Gabriel, the loss of Gabriel, and talked about the set piece evolution. Guys, listen, Gabriel, when you look at the stats, when you think about, what Arsenal does in those set pieces, right? We still have aerial duel consistency and aerial duel, in a lot of players that are actually winning their aerial duels. So when I look at Opta, for example, if you look at the average aerial duels in the page, Gabriel actually is 0.28 in terms of his aerial duels. But we're still ranked number one because why? Saliba is actually 0.33 in terms of aerial duels. Zubimendi, quite surprising, is 0.24. Mosquera, 0.27. And Merino, 0.29. So we now have 4 players at or above that range. So that's not luck. That's by design. It just means that we haven't really lost our aerial threat with Gabriel out of the team. What we've done is we've redistributed it. Gabriel can be very dominant. There's no question about it. And you can see the passion that he plays. But actually, there are lots of other players that are very good in the air, for Arsenal. So I think those that are thinking that with Gabriel gone, our set pieces no longer be a threat, let's go ask the question to Bayern and find out what they think. Tactically, I also think that our squad depth is a real tactical weapon. I think it is. It's a weapon that Arsenal can call on depending on what they want to see in the game and how that game is progressing. Chelsea's bench is really light right now. No Colwell, no Lavia, no Palmer as well. But Arsenal, if you look at our bench, Ødegaard was on the bench today, probably be on the bench against Chelsea. Martinelli might be on the bench. Actually, I think Martinelli might start, especially with Trossard potentially having an injury. Then you've got Madueke, you've got Norgard, you've got White. This is flexibility. And I think what that does is that it depends on, like I say, what Arsenal want to see in the game. If we're looking for control, maybe we bring on Ødegaard. Maybe if you want a bit of chaos, a bit of dynamism, Noni Madueke can come on. We're looking for a direct vertical threat, as what we saw with Martinelli's goal today. Martinelli can come on. And then if we need stability, in the game, we can bring on Norgard or we can bring on White. I'm not sure Chelsea have those solutions as well. So I think that this would be another game very similar to what we've seen against Bayern Munich. Now, for me, the X factor in this game, when I look at it, is a single start that I think changes everything. And nobody really talks about the start. And Arsenal lead the league in both of the starts. And the first one is the field tilt. This is the possession in the attacking third. And then the zone 14 creation sequences. Arsenal are topping the league in those two starts. And they do this without Jesus. They've done this without Ødegaard, and without Gyökeres being consistently available. Now, if you notice with those Eze goals, he scored those goals from the zone 14, the 3 goals that he scored. Absolutely incredible. And Arsenal are beginning to take advantage of those spaces in the pitch. It wasn't something that we were doing quite well. James from Gunnarverse did a really good breakdown, about this. And I absolutely agree with him, as well, in terms of how Arsenal are now enhancing their attacking capabilities and the opportunities to actually score goals, from different positions and from different parts of the pitch. And I think Chelsea are going to struggle with this because Arsenal would dominate those central spaces with a rotating 8-10-9 structure that no other Premier League side, uses. So that X factor is really simple. If Arsenal control the midfield, Chelsea are going to be done for in this game. When I look at the lineups for this game, the Arsenal prediction, okay, maybe I'll start with Chelsea because I think let's look at what Chelsea would potentially do in this game. I think Chelsea will start with Sanchez. You're probably going to have, James, Fofana, Chalobah, and Cucurella. I might see a situation where Gusto will come into the game at some point, but Caicedo and Enzo, I think that Garnacho starts this game. I also think that Estêvão, starts this game as well, and Leon Delap, starts this game. Now, what does that mean in terms of João Pedro? Now, you saw in the game against Barcelona that Neto actually started, playing that almost false 9. I don't think that Maresca is going to do this against Arsenal. I think he's going to want to try and mix things a little bit up. So I might see a situation where João Pedro might start, but this is feeling that Liam Delap might be the one to actually get the nod. But I may be wrong. But in terms of Arsenal, we pretty much know what our back four is going to look like. It's going to be Raya in goal, going to be Timber, Saliba. And I think that Mosquera played very well in this game, but I have a feeling that Nkapia might come back. I think Mikel Arteta, considering the fact that he played for his country, played a tenacious North London derby, I think the Bayern Munich was a game too far, especially 3 games in the last 7 days. So I think it was good rotation to get Mosquera in, but I think Nkapia comes back and Calafiori comes back into that left back position. And then, of course, we've talked about Rice, Zubimendi, and Eze. They're going to be the 3 in the midfield. And then you're going to have Saka, Merino, and potentially Noni Madueke starting this game, especially if Trossard is injured. That's what I think was going to happen. I think Merino has earned his position play. I don't think they're going to rush Gyökeres. Arsenal can afford to bring in their injured players coming back, gradually and ease them into the game. So I don't think that they're going to be rushed. I think Martinelli can be a dynamic substitution, in this game, especially when we want to stretch things. And we know Martinelli lost the score against Chelsea as well. So, guys, brings me to my match prediction. How do I see this game going? Um, this will not be easy. I think, like I said, I think this Chelsea is a much stronger outfit, a much more confident outfit. And they're unpredictable and they can be chaotic and dangerous. But I think we have our identity, we've got our patterns, we've got a structure, and Arsenal have depth. So my prediction is going to be a 2-1 victory to Arsenal in this game. But if we win this, we're 9 points clear of Chelsea. So this game is probably the most important game of all the 3 games that we've played. This is where we anchor things. And that means that it sets up quite nicely into the game against Brentford and Aston Villa. So it's going to be a defining away game this season for us because we need to start putting that fear into players, into other teams. And after the match, guys, we're going to drop down our Pavilion debrief, our 3 ups and our 3 down. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and let's get ready for that Stamford Bridge. I've got a lot of Chelsea fans. I'm going to be tweeting them as well, talking to them, chatting with them, bantering as well. Let's go into this game, with a lot of confidence, especially on the back of what we've done with Bayern Munich. I appreciate all of you. Please continue to share this with other Arsenal fans and Gunners alike. Let's build this community as much as we can. I'll see you guys in the next one.